this morning. I'm excited about this session. I've already had a sneak peek into what Lucas is presenting. One of my favorite things about it is that it's just stuff that you can put into action right away. So we need to go over a few housekeeping slides. If you've been on a Marketo User Group meeting, these should look very familiar. We use the same ones pretty consistently. And it might help if I get the right one up. There we go. A couple of house rules: no self-promotion or pitching of any kind. Don't contact people outside the user group without their consent. And if user group members share their use case, please don't share that information. If someone reaches out to you via LinkedIn and tries to connect with you, or you try to connect to them, that's fine. But other than that, just make sure to keep it within this meeting. This meeting is being recorded, as I already started recording. It's Austin Mud Group, October 3rd, 10 a.m. Central. If you don't wish to participate, you can either drop off and then catch the recording, or keep your comments in chat to a minimum to not be recorded. Please stay connected with our Austin Mud Group. We'll talk about, I know Lucas runs the Brazil group, so you can connect with them as well. So navigate to mugs.marketo.com. Most likely you guys are already a part of that, but in case you're not, you can create an account. And you can join any chapter. Right? There's several chapters that I participate in, because a lot of times they'll have virtual events in addition to in-person events. Always a great way to get amazing information from all the different Marketo peeps across the world. We do have a new Marketo user group called Foundations. It's everything that you wish you would have known when you first started in Marketo. Has some super useful tips even for people that have been in Marketo forever. It is great to see. Again, if you go to mugs.marketo.com, you can find it there. There is a new email designer. I'm sure everyone but me knows about it, since I just migrated today. Because I pushed it off and I kept pushing it off. So all kinds of different trainings on the new email designer. If you go to the YouTube channel, you'll see lots of recordings already done about it. So if you want to research more, it's there, as well as continuing to see them across different mugs. And Adobe's always looking for feedback. So if you take the time to go to G2 or Trust Race, super appreciative of giving Marketo a review. Stop sharing. Now get to do the fun part, and I've got a cheat sheet here. Okay, today we have Lucas. He is Director of AI and Automation at Revenue Pulse, a Marketo Certified Architect and a Marketo Certified Champion. Lucas is all around. I think he gets pulled into more presentations because of his expertise and his ability to convey super technical information that's really applicable to all parts of the revenue operations cycle. He works at Revenue Pulse, I said that, and leads company-wide initiatives from AI-driven Persona Classifiers to Next-Best-Offer Engines and autonomous RevOps. Wow, that's hard to say. Also a co-leader of Brazil Marketo User Group. He has a degree in mathematics, a mathematics degree, and with lots of AI certifications that puts the two together to create winning strategies for marketing operations. Super excited to have Lucas. So thank you so much, Lucas, and the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Robin, for the invite and for this magnificent introduction that is much better than any that I gave, probably. So I'm probably going to skip forward my introduction. Not going to say anything like this because you did it much better than I did. Just wanted to say this is the QR code for my LinkedIn profile. So if you want to connect, please reach out. I'd love to connect with everyone here from the Austin user group. The only thing that I'll add for that introduction is that I call myself a typical Brazilian. I love samba, I love football, and the real football, not the American one. I'm sorry, guys, but football is meant to be played with your feet, always, not just in a small part of the game. And if you notice something a little odd in my accent, that's because, well, I'm Brazilian. And if you don't understand something that I said, please ask me to repeat. I'll do it patiently. I have a very heavy presentation here in terms that I have a lot of slides, so I might speak a little too fast. That's a problem. You can please interrupt me, Robin, and I can speak slower too. So for today, what we're going to discuss, we're going to start with AI 101, very basics on AI in general, and more specifically on large language model. Then we're going to talk about a framework for AI marketing operations. Plan to do this too pretty quickly so we can get to the very fun stuff that are the cool use cases. Everyone wants to know what you can do with AI, and that's the third topic. And then we are going to talk about how you can prepare for AI agents. So we are not going to talk about how to build AI agents yet. We're going to talk about that in Mopsapalooza. So if you are joining Mopsapalooza, I'll be talking about that specific topic. But I'm saving that presentation for there for now, and maybe throughout the end of this year or beginning of next year, we can do that online too. But we are going to talk more about some concepts and how to prepare your instance, your team for AI agents because, well, they are coming, right? So starting with AI 101, I always like to start with what is really AI. So the idea of artificial intelligence is to create a computer system or a machine that can simulate how humans think, how we perform tasks that usually require our cognition. So there are some examples from our day-to-day here. So predictive maintenance. So you have a factory and you have that specific robot that is running, that is a very integral part of your factory. Doing maintenance on it is expensive because you have to stop production. If you can have an AI model that say, hey, it has 10% of chance of breaking next month, so you should stop this and do a maintenance, it can save you money because you will stop it before it breaks, and you also don't have to do the maintenance every month, for example. The Netflix algorithm, I think that was one of the biggest use cases of AI when it started to be a part of our day to day, or the TikTok algorithm, or any social media algorithm, to be honest. And we were just talking about 6sense before the call, but they have a predictive lead scoring model that is also based on AI. So these are all kind of AI trying to predict something, trying to predict what is the next movie, what is the next reels, what is the next buyer, all of that. And AI does not have to be complicated. So I always like to bring that example here because this is a real artificial intelligence machine learning actually method that is called naive Bayes. You can say, oh, if you have in your database, you know that directors have a 50% chance of buying after MQL, and workers of the financial services have 20% chance of buying after MQL. A director of a bank who just MQL have 10% of chance of buying. And this is a real machine learning model, not very much used because it's, well, as its name says, it's naive, but you can apply this, but it is not the ideal one. So it starts on this basic model and it goes until huge neural networks that it can be too complex, even for me that studied 5 years of mathematics during grad school. And so I'm not going to try to explain how they work. So basically, it's all about predictions. We're trying to predict something usually. Like that's our main goal with all these models, all this AI. So thinking about then what is a large language model, what is so specific about this type of AI? It is basically a model that is trying to predict the next best word, or in the AI case, the next best token. So we have lots of examples these days of different large language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, Breeze, Agentforce, Marketo Dynamic Chat has large language model capabilities now embedded into it too. Interactive webinars now have large language models intelligence into it too. So it does not uses that simple method that I talked about, naive Bayes. It uses neural networks. So these are huge neural networks with billions of parameters, so it makes it computationally very, very heavy. And they run on these huge data centers because of that. So it's basically this AI LLM is an AI model that is very heavy, and it's try to predict the next best token or word to make it easier to understand. And you can talk about general model or fine-tuned model. And I like to explain these differences, thinking of the general model being a good student that is like average on everything, get at least a B in every single test. They can focus on one subject and master it, but then they will kind of leave the rest. And they were trained on different topics. They have this kind of general knowledge, like ChatGPT, like Gemini, like Claude. Or you could have a fine-tuned model that is a savant, a person that is a genius in math but sucks in geography, does not know if Brazil is in the South America or in Africa, for example. Can change its focus to other subjects, so they are very focused on one thing and cannot really learn and change, and they are very delimited by the instructions after training. So, for example, Jasper is a fine-tuned model for writing content overall. So after you fine tune it, you cannot like use Jasper for things that you would use ChatGPT for. And that's very important for when you're selecting the models that you're going to use in your company, because I'd say that you need at least one general model, and then you can add as many fine-tuned as you want, but you cannot use a fine-tuned as a general one, because then you're going to run into problems. You're not going to be able to apply all the use cases that we're going to talk about. Before going deeper into the use cases, I also like to talk about compliance, mostly because I know that is in the back of the head of everyone here probably. So I'm not a lawyer, does not take this as legal advice. It's mostly things that I learned working with AI, and especially ChatGPT is the one that I mostly use during my day-to-day. Uh, so the first thing is that ChatGPT is not confidential. It will retain your data, but there are different ways that you can use it that are safe. So for one, if you're using ChatGPT via the API, it will not retain your data to improve its model. But if you're using via the browser, it might retain your data to improve the models. But you can turn off this option if you'd like. So if you're dealing with PI data, you should be sure that this option is deactivated in your browser, for example. And OpenAI will always retain your data for 30 days for operational and security purposes. So even if you're using the API, even if you deactivate the model improvement option, this will still happen. It doesn't mean that it's not GDPR compliant, for example. It's just going to retain your data for 30 days to ensure that you didn't break any guidelines and security protocols there. But it's still compliant with GDPR, with all the data legislations, I think. And well, my recommendations always ensure compliance with your local data regulations and anonymize the data whenever possible. Like if you can anonymize, it is better in the end of the day. And I say that for every kind of system, not just AI. And finally, I wanted to talk about a bit about pricing, because when we talk about AI, many times we think, oh, it costs $20 a day, because there's kind of a standard in the industry that you charge $20 a day for for every chat a month. Sorry, $20 a month. But when you're using the API, it's not really that way that it works. It's based on tokens. So tokens is the fundamental unit of text for an AI. It's kind of a word, but it's not really a word. You can think of it as 4 characters, but it's not really 4 characters. Uh, but it's what AI understand as a word, I would say, or how it expresses itself. Every word that you send has a price, and every token that the AI outputs also have a price, and then that's how you calculate how much every request for an AI cost. OpenAI has this tokenizer that help you understand how it works. So in the beginning, here's an example on how a sentence is split in tokens. You can see that English, basically every word is a token. Punctuation is also a token. ChatGPT, though, is 2 tokens, and misspelled words can be 3 tokens even. But the second sentence is the same sentence but in Portuguese, just because I wanted to show you guys that that's not always the case in other languages too. So splitted is dividida. Here is two tokens in Portuguese, but just one token in English, the same word. So it not really directly translates. But if you're using English, only a rule of thumb, usually a word is a token. And the price varies according to the model that you're using. And you can see that it's not super expensive. 1 million tokens for input for GPT-5 is $1.25, so it's not a lot. Now moving forward, I wanted to talk about AI model framework. So, all right, we talked about this basics on AI. How can I apply it to my day-to-day in my company? How I can formulate a plan for the future. And I always want to think about AI in business with two different premises, that AI is a transformative technology that allows us easy access to intelligence, is financially cheap, and it easily integrates with current systems that we have directly via webhooks using iPaaS solutions. But well, if they have APIs, they are not rocket science in terms of integration. And it's only getting better, right? Like the AI that we're using today is probably the worst AI that we use from now on. Just in the last year, we got multimodal capabilities and reasoning capabilities that seemed impossible 2 years ago. And well, that makes me think next year, what are we getting that we think is impossible? So just it just keeps evolving. It keeps getting better. Thinking about that to the future, I can see two different impacts in our business. The first one is on customer experience. It will allow us to create unique experience for each person by delivering the right message with the right wording, with the right context at the right moment. And it will also improve our operational efficiency. It will become easier and easier to create campaigns, virtually no time to implement a new marketing strategy, and they will be already created on that hyper personalized level. I'm not saying that this is happening tomorrow. I'm saying that I see this impact happening in X years, and I cannot estimate how many X years we need to get to that level because, well, I do not know how fast these models are improving. I would not doubt in 5, but I would also say, oh, it will take, if someone said to me it will take 10 years, I would say that's all right. If someone said it will take 2 years, okay, I can see that happening for at least the early adopters. So I'm not trying to convince you that in 2 years this is going to happen, but I'm just trying to express that this is the direction that we are going. And if we're going that direction, we have to prepare ourselves to get there at some point. That's why we thought about the AI in marketing operations framework. We have 4 different levels, and the first level is basically we have no AI used throughout the company, only individual AI usage. And at this level, we see a lot of companies that are still forbidding AI to be used. But I do not believe that there is a single company right now that no one is using AI. So even if you forbid, probably someone inside your company is using it. But you have no policy, you have no strategy, it's just individual usage. When you go to the second level, now the company has policies and strategies on AI, leveraging those individuals' use cases. The team has access to it and are using it in their day to day. The problem here is that it's still on that individual level. AI is helping people on their day to day. They are not being leveraged in processes. And then it's what we get to the level 3, that we have some processes now being enhanced through AI and AI enabling some one-to-one experiences. And finally, we get to the level, to the last level, level 4, is that creating these hyper-personalized campaigns with basically no time to deployment. So we see this as an evolution that we are growing each step at a time with different use cases, and we're going to talk about the use cases to go from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, not 3 to 4 because I think those doesn't exist anymore yet. Sorry, but to get to those 4 levels, to get to the level 4, we still need to work on 3 different foundations. The first one is team and skills. So you're not going to grow your AI maturity if your team is uh, not ready for it, doesn't understand it, and is not empowered to do so. Because the team in the end of the day are the people who are in the day-to-day process. They can spot the opportunities for innovations and they can accelerate them instead of bringing different outside resources to implement 10 use cases. If your team knows how to do that, they are empowered to do so. They can create those efficiencies in the business, in their day-to-day, in the process that they are responsible for or they are overseeing. Second foundation is data, as we always said, garbage in, garbage out. And I know marketing operations always talks about data, right? Like it's never good enough. I've never talked to someone that said, "Oh no, I think we have good data for our business." Everyone thinks it should be better, and AI can be a challenge, but also an opportunity in that sense, because AI can help you clean and standardize your data. But if you try to get the most complex AI use cases before cleaning and standardize your data, you'll get garbage insights, things that don't really mean anything. So, so for example, if you're trying to understand, we're going to talk about the persona use case in a few moments, and that's going to make more sense then. But if you're trying to understand how different personas react to your emails, if you do not have well-defined personas and well-categorized personas, your insights will not make any sense because these people are not in the right persona bucket, so the data is messed up. And finally, strategy, right? You have to get your organization efforts in the right direction to implement these innovations. Doesn't matter if your team is ready, if you have good data, but if your strategy is not leading you to that innovation, if you don't have C-level sponsorship, and if you're not investing on the right technologies to bring AI, it is very hard to keep moving forward there. Oh, I almost forgot about that one. We created an AI-based tool that can evaluate your business into these 3 foundations and 2 gains. And oh, I didn't get the. I'll get the link in the chat later. Sorry, I forgot to add the link here. But we have this tool that provide a report and suggest next steps. We don't use that to acquire email and to contact you later. Always like to do that disclaimer, but it is a cool tool to help you for your next steps. And now, the cool use cases. I know everyone's always expecting those. So we talked about the levels, and I wanted to connect these use cases with those levels because it helps you make sense. The first one is custom GPTs. And many times that I talk with people that are starting to use AI, they don't uh, leverage custom GPTs as much as I think they could because creating a custom GPT is basically creating your partner for specific parts of your tasks or your job. So your partner that is very knowledgeable. And for me was the custom GPT on Velocity script because Velocity script is kind of a part of my project, not all of them, but of some. And I know how to code on Velocity, but I don't do that every day, so I forget, and it's painful to start. And I tried to use ChatGPT, the basic version, the I think it was ChatGPT 4 back then to help me, but it was so specific that it didn't understand. And because Marketo velocity is different than real velocity, so in the end of the day, it can become a nightmare for using ChatGPT there. So I got all the code that I did in the past for Velocity that I have those in our sandbox. I got them and I sent to a custom GPT to train it. And now I use that custom GPT to assist me. It's not 100% right. It's like I'd say 95% right every single time, but it gets me started. It gets me going so I can just correct this few notes that I have and it makes this task less painful for me every time that I have to start it. And it's not just creating a velocity script, but if you have, for example, very thorough documentation on how to operate your Marketo instance. You can send that to a custom GPT, and if you have a question, you can just ask it, make that available for your team. All those basic things makes it easier for you to navigate your day to day. It's a great case for the level two, where you are leveraging uh, some AI for your own use cases and to make your day to day easier. Then, if you're moving from level two to level three and start implementing AI into your processes, the AI persona one, I think, is the one that I love the most. Uh, Before I go to how it works, the way that we do persona in Marketo traditionally is, I think I see nightmare many times, but it's kind of a nightmare. It's clunky. We are trying to use words combinations to find job titles, job roles that many times don't even make sense. We create so many rules to get people that work on IT many times, right? Like, because you cannot put just job title contains IT, otherwise it will gonna get all the architects, because architect contains our IT. So you create these complex rules that are at best 70% accurate and will take you forever to maintain, just because you need to go there and maintain that and change the job titles if you spot some mistakes. We had clients that were doing this, that they were spending 10 to 20 hours a month updating this. So what we do, and what this use case is all about, is to fine tune a ChatGPT, create a ChatGPT that has all these past examples of which job titles fall into which persona, and from that training data it learns, and you can set new job titles and it will understand, okay, this is related to IT. All the IT people are in this bucket. I'll return this bucket. So whenever a lead is created in Marketo, we send just the job title for this fine-tuned ChatGPT that will return the persona classification, and Marketo then will process the response. Uh, One important thing is that it just sends job title. I think I have a slide talking about this. Yeah, it just sends job title. It does not send the Marketo lead ID, doesn't send Marketo email, nothing. So there is no PII. It's really zero risk. And it has no direct interaction between your leads and AI, meaning it's not a chatbot in your website that people can talk with, and maybe it will hallucinate, it will look bad for your brand. If AI makes a mistake in the persona classification, well, you have one misclassified person. That's not the end of the world. You have probably 30 to 40% right now. Uh, so this is a great starter use case. I love it, and usually our clients start with this one. And in the end, you get an intelligent persona model that it will deliver, that will allow you to better deliver your content and also better score your leads, because you will be able to score on the persona in the end of the day. And these are the steps that we follow. We create the trained data, we transform that data, fine tune the ChatGPT, and then connect with Marketo. Create training data. I think it's the worst part of this use case specifically, because you would have to get a bunch of examples of job titles and manually categorize them one by one. Takes a lot of human effort. I usually say that you need at least 100 per category, so you are safe that your category is well covered. Sometimes you need 200, 300 even, but usually 100 gets it started. Then you have to transform your data. So instead of just having this uh, job type, this CSV type of file, you have to transform that into a JSON-L file, which is uh, this format here on the column H. And if you don't know how to create this format, we have the spreadsheet that creates it for you. It's right here on that QR code. And finally, you have this final format, like a TXT file, JSON-L format that has uh, the messages, the system message, the content. You're going to analyze job titles and fit them to the correct persona, send the job title only, and you should respond with the persona classification only. This is the instruction for your AI. Then we send the user message, job title 1. Then we send the assistant message, and the assistant message is basically what you want the AI to respond when you send job title 1. And I want the AI to respond A, the persona A. Job title 2, I want the persona A. Job title 3, the persona A. So that's how the training happens. You basically say, if I send you this, I want you to respond this. And you have to put that into this specific JSON-L format so OpenAI can understand it. Then I recommend you split the data between training and testing. It makes it much more accurate. Pick your base model. Right now, I think the best one that you can use is 4.1 for fine-tuning. You can use the API to send the data to OpenAI, but you can also use the interface. Right now, the platform.openai is very good to do so. I even am doing this much more than using the API, to be honest. And then you can start the fine-tuning there. It's very, very straightforward. And I left here the link for the guide. And then you have to connect with your Marketo. Here's the URL that you usually use, chat completions. I think the completions actually is getting out of date. It has to be the responses. The payload template, the model, here is your fine-tuned model. When you finish fine-tuning a model, it will return you the model ID, and that's what you put here. Max tokens 1, because you just want to return 1 character as your persona classification. Temperature is 0, and we didn't talk about temperature that much, but temperature is the creativity parameter. So if you're putting it to 0, you're saying to your model, be the most analytical, don't be creative. I just want you to analyze text and put in the right persona. I don't want you to think too much. The system message that you use for training, and the prompt is the job title, so the job title token here. And then you map the response to a specific Marketo field. And here's how it looks in your Marketo. You send, for example, data analyst as the job title. It will return P3. And then in your Marketo, you have to use this response, this P3, to say, hey, P3 is data related people, for example, and put that into a field that makes sense. I usually recommend using these characters, these categories like P1, P2, P3, just because it consumes less tokens and it provides AI less ways that it can hallucinate. So it's usually easier. And we have a blog post on this. So if you want to learn more and to understand the step by step, we have the blog post. So please read it and you can start implementing it today. And the results that we have are that usually we get 98% plus accuracy on classification, sometimes even 99. I'd say that we always have more than 97, many times more than 98, and sometimes more than 99% accuracy on the classification. And we save many hours of manual work every month. And on average, for a client, we saw that an average of 10 hours per month. And now if we are on the level 3 and want to do very complex things with AI, one use case that I always recommend is the next best offer, or NBO. What is that? It is a model that instead of you defining what you're going to send to your clients, AI decides it. So you trigger from Marketo, it will call an iPaaS solution that will run a workflow that is going to pull from Marketo all the activity and demographic for that lead. We'll run next best offer GPT that is going to define this is the next best content to send to this specific person. With that, you're going to run a writer GPT that is going to write that email, send that back to Marketo as subject line and body, will send the email. So in the end of the day, you have one specific email per person in your nurture instead of having mass emails being sent, not knowing not knowing if it is resonating with all of your audience, if it's the ideal for everyone, then you have one specific individualized email. Uh, So it's also low risk because you have no PII, all the data is anonymized, and you get the high gain because the leads will receive the content relevant for them, taking into consideration their demographics and their behavior recently. And to do that, first we have to start creating the content library. So basically all the content that the AI can pick to send to your leads. Embed that with a vector store. So we're going to talk about this term RAG that people on the AI workspace use a lot. Create the workflow and then connect that with Marketo. The content library is basically a file that contains all the content that you can actively use with your clients, with your prospects. It has the content ID, that's basically an identifier, the smart campaign ID, the asset type, the content name, the content URL, so where it's the content living, if it is gated or not, the landing page URL, so where the form lives, the content summary, the focus group, so who I want to send this to, the key takeaways, and the lifecycle stage, top, middle, or bottom funnel content, right? This content summary, focus groups, lifecycle stage, key takeaways are very important for AI to understand which is the best content to be sent, because it's going to run this content summary against what this person is looking for, the persona versus the content focus group to see if it makes sense, the key takeaways against what the person has just opened, all of that is going to be compared. And, and we're going to, as I said, we're going to talk about RAG because RAG is retrieval, augmentation, generation, which is one of the ways that you can train models, and it's a term that is much used by AI geeks, but it's not so commonly used outside of that world. Basically, I wanted to explain the difference here between fine-tuning and RAG, what is different about that. Fine-tuning, you are training really the general model, you are adding information to the way it works. It requires initial training data in a very specific format. It has to be a huge training data, like, as I said, 100 example per persona. That's a lot of data, especially if you have 10 different personas, that's 1,000 records. Since you are embedding that information, not embedding even, you are inserting that information into the neural network, you won't get any delay on the responses. You're encoding the knowledge there. The response will be as fast as a request that you make to ChatGPT. RAG is adding basically documents to that model that it can consult during the response. So what happens is that you have this model that it can consult. When you send a prompt, the AI will find the parts of the document that make sense, send to the LLM, and then the LLM will will analyze your prompt and the document parts that make sense to provide the response. Since it since you are uploading documents, basically they can be in quite generic formats. You don't have to worry about having things in a JSON-L format, as we were saying for fine tuning. But it's slower because now you have this retrieval workflow happening, and also it relies a lot on the accuracy of that retrieval. That is getting better and better. So basically, this is how it happens. You have a question, it goes to your vector database that is going to be queried and pull the relevant parts. Your initial question plus the relevant parts are going to be sent to the LLM, and then you have an answer. Instead of going directly question, LLM, answer. You have these two middle steps here that are that get added in this RAG workflow usually. So because of that, it's slower. It has more parts that it can find errors. So why would you ever use a RAG workflow instead of fine tuning? Because it's just so much easier, and it still, even though it's not 99% accurate, it's still much more accurate than a general model. Using RAG allows you to leverage the documentation that you have in the current format instead of creating a new format, a new database, And for more complex use cases like this, let's say how many combinations of life cycle stage, job title, job persona, uh, behavioral information that you can have. So think of how many examples you would need to provide to fine tune. Would be a lot. The content library already gives enough context for the model to understand the content that you have and how to recommend it. To create a vector store, it's very easy. Go to OpenAI platform storage vector stores. You click on create, you update your files, and you get your vector store ID basically. Um, Step by step here. And then you get that vector store ID that you add to your requests like this. You add the tools and you add the vector store ID here whenever you are requesting the model via the API. Then you can connect it with your map, with your Marketo, basically by creating a workflow that is going to pull the demographic. And you can do that by downloading a list or using the API. You can export the activity log, then using the API, run that workflow with the next best offer and writer GPT. And then you can import that data back using a list import or the API itself. One important thing to build a workflow like this, you need an iPaaS, a cloud resource like an AWS, Zapier, Workato, N8N, Azure, anything like this to process this data. If you want to try it, you can try it even on your computer, uh, and it works. I did that a few times for a few clients just as a proof of concept. And just a few quick tips. Always try to analyze your past emails to teach the writer GPT how to write. So use AI to describe what worked in the best emails and what didn't work in the worst emails and feed that to your GPT and as guidelines. The most accurate that you have your content library, the best the results will be because the AI will have more context to recommend the right asset. Choose our models to control costs. Not everything will need ChatGPT 5. Some things 4.1, even 3.5 will be good enough. And scale as you go. Start doing this for 500 different leads. See how they react to this. So if they're reacting well, go to 1,000, 2,000, and then as you see, you'll be sending personalized emails to half your database easily. And we saw 2 to 3 times improvement in click rates using this use case on our clients and 10 to 20% improvement on open rate. It really depends on the clients and on the previous engagement, but the least that we saw it's 200% improvement on click rates, meaning if they were having 1%, now they have 2% at least. Finally, I know that I already talked too much. I'll try to do this part a bit shorter, but how you can prepare for AI agents. So if you're talking a lot about AI agents these days, how can you be sure that you, your instance, and your team are ready for AI agents? And I like to start with this question. How fast can someone learn your processes? Let's say you hire a Marketo genius today. How long it will take for this person to understand your instance? If you said less than a week, I'll be very proud of your Marketo instance. I know that most of the ones that I work with, even the ones that I build, will take weeks probably for someone to understand these processes. And why would that be different for AI? They are trained on general knowledge. So they are trained, as you can think of, as if they are trained on Marketo, they are trained on the best practices of Marketo, on how to operate a Marketo in general, not your specific instance. That is very specific knowledge. So you have to make your systems understandable. So in, and that means for inside your systems, follow the best practices like naming conventions, templatization, data hygiene, deduplication. Give good description to your programs, to your folders. This all helps AI to learn how things work, and it also helps us human to learn how things work, right? Make it clear when some process is legacy. It's like by adding a Z or adding a comment to the description. All the basic stuff that we've been talking about in marketing operations for the past 10 years they are more needed than ever. If someone said that they can plug and play an AI agent in your system without any time training or trying to understand how it works, it's a straight up lie because, well, nobody created that kind of agent yet. And I think probably they will never be created because your instance is so specific that it take a while for the AI to understand how it works. Uh, and also documentation is also very important. Document your process clearly and also try to document the unspoken rules. That's one of the largest issues with AI adoptions in enterprise context that we see, that and we have just so many spoken rules. Think about that specific program in Marketo that you don't have a template, but you have that old program that you always clone from, and everyone clones from that old program. That is an unspoken rule. It's not written anywhere, but everyone knows that it's supposed to happen this way. Make your documentation AI friendly if possible. Avoid negatives. AI hates negatives. You say don't do that, it will most often do that thing that you asked not to do. If you have video documentation, get the transcripts. It's easier to understand. And if possible, try to document API steps too. If you're all API knowledgeable, a lot of the AI's agents right now work via API. So if you have the API steps, it is easier to train any AI agent. And then these documentations can be served as the foundation for your RAG, for your fine tuning in the future. And I like to bring a few concepts here just to close the presentation. The first one is the J curve. It is that is going to say that the ramp on productivity is not going to be overnight. And this is a curve that explains the productivity through time with new technology adoption, not just AI. Like probably we saw the same thing when Marketo was adopted for the first time. Whenever you are adopting a new technology, you will have to redesign your processes. Your team will have to get acquainted with that technology, and that will lead to a dip of productivity in the beginning. You can expect that, and aligning that expectation with your team, with your boss, helps you navigate this dip in time and then start improving. And I see that whenever I implement any AI use case, I implement the AI persona, and then people don't understand exactly what is each persona. Even if you had a training session, they forget about it because uh, they are people. That happens, and then you have the supporting documents and they start consulting that in 1 to 2 weeks. They already learned what it means, and then you can move forward and the productivity starts to increase again. And another thing that is very important is adjust your team and your teammates to AI agents when they come. uh, this image here is about the jagged frontier. It is one of my favorite concepts around AI. So we perceive tasks difficulty differently than AI. So for example, if you ask AI to give you one example of something, it is very good on it. If you ask AI to give you 100 examples of the same thing, it will fail miserably most of the times. Uh, because for us, if you can give one, you can give 100, that's it. But for AI, those tasks are very, very different in terms of their difficulty. So it's very easy for you to think, okay, it can do that, then can do that thing. Ask AI, AI will give you an answer. You kind of believe that answer, but it wasn't the right one. You go and test that solution, it doesn't work, and then it becomes that tricky moment that you are trying to rely on AI to do things that AI cannot do, and AI will never tell you, I cannot do that task. It will try to provide you answers. Many times it will be the wrong one. The curious thing about that is there were studies done by BCG, the Boston Consulting Group, that uh, talk about all these different bullet points here. I started in this one, I don't know why. But, the thing is that for people using AI for tasks inside the frontier, the productivity increases tremendously. But if you're using AI for tasks outside the frontier, your productivity actually decreases because it leads you just to so many rework that your productivity gets worse. So mapping that frontier and having those conversations with your team, like, oh, I tried to use it for this, it failed. Oh, I tried using it for this and it worked, is very important because they have to know what they can use AI and can't use AI. They have to be ready to map that frontier. Uh, there are also a few other findings that I find interesting. One, that junior employees have the highest productivity increase and senior employees have the lowest. It's wrong in the slide, sorry. So basically, it lowers the gap between junior to senior employees. They also found in that same study that there are two different collaboration models that work the best for humans and AI. The first one is the centaur. The centaur that is half horse, half person, basically saying that you have exactly which tasks the human do, which tasks the AI do. So your day-to-day is clearly separated. Oh, this is human, this is AI. There's a clear line there. And there is also the cyborg model, because the cyborg, you never know when it's a robot and when it's human. It's for those people who like to be experimenting for everything. Oh, go to the AI, see what it responds. Go to the internet, see what's available. Oh, AI makes sense. AI doesn't make sense. Let's keep moving. It's testing every time on every different task and using it in their day to day almost organically. These are the two collaboration models that they saw that work the most. And another trap that I didn't talk about yet is the automation bias. And this is not just on AI. This is on machines overall. We tend to believe that machines that work 95% of times will work 100% of times. If we see that working 19, we think that the 20th time it will work too. And we get very bad at being the human in the loop, thinking that we will be good humans in the loop to, I don't know, manually check 1,000 persona classifications is it's unrealistic. We will not be able to. We have to have other safeguards on AI than just ourselves, because humans notoriously become very reliant, and very dependent on technology as it evolves. Just as a figure of an analogy here, the semi-autonomous trains on the Paris subways had more accident than the human one and the fully automated one. So when you had the human in the loop working with AI, trying to oversee if the machine was working well, it had more accidents in the subway than when you had just humans or just a machine, because we become way too reliant. We have to develop other ways, like analyzing the unsubscribe rates from time to time, or having this kind of alerts. And well, we talked about many use cases here that I find are cool. We have all these different ones, AI use cases in our website. Please check if you want. Other two webinars here that I presented, both of them, I think, with Tyron, that we talk about different AI use cases. And all of them that we try to explain step by step how to do to implement them. We want you to be empowered to start using those AI use cases in your day to day. And that's all.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Lucas. I've got so many questions. I think I want to schedule like just a Zoom session with you and send out the recording with like about 47 different questions. But we've got about 4 minutes. If anybody has any questions, and they can drop it in chat. Um, and so, Velocity Script Custom GPT, are you selling it? Can we get access to it?
Oh, the QR code is supposed to work. You are
Yeah.
not,
Okay. Okay.
you can get
Okay.
that directly. It's not sold, it's
Oh,
free for everyone.
I love it. Okay. I'll check out the presentation slides. Um, awesome. And detailed documentation, is that the first step you think would be like, hey, we're not really doing much besides like pulling information from ChatGPT and then using it. When it comes to like trying to integrate it, is the first step really like detailed documentation? of your instance?
I would start with, yeah, that would be one of the two initial things that I would think of doing. The documented our instance, trying to prepare for AI agents. But if you want to have use cases right now running on your Marketo instance, I'll try to think of database standardization, like the Persona project one, the Persona use case. These use cases that are very safe because they don't interact with humans. They get major improvements for your day to day for your instance, but they are not involving PII or hallucination. So you can start seeing the gains of AI in your instance before getting an agent to build campaigns for you.
And if you had to guess, and this is an impossible question, but I'm asking anyway. If you had to guess, like price range, like, hey, we've got 500,000 in our database, it's a pretty small database compared to a lot of folks, or compared to most folks. What if I, and I'm saying I want to standardize. If you had to give a range, like what would be the cost, pricing cost? And my standardization is really like persona. Let's say I'm just going to
Yeah,
persona.
it's funny. I did that. It's cheaper than people think, like the AI cost. I did that estimation for a client yesterday that has 1.5 million, and we realized that it was less than $50. So probably it will be
Oh wow.
20, $15 to standardize everything. It's really, really cheap. People do not realize that.
Yeah, when it was like per item, I was like, wait a second, that feels like it's going to be a lot of money. Oh, that's good to know.
No,
That's
because
good.
it's per the price is like $1 per million tokens, so like a million words for you to get $1. So it's not that expensive.
Awesome. I've got a million more. I'm going to go look into Velocity. And if I think I have the presentation that you sent me,
Yeah,
you want me to, and then I'll make sure to include that when I send out the recording. It will probably be over the weekend that I get to that. But um, yeah, I want to make sure to use the presentation that's approved by you. So
sounds
yeah,
good. All right, thank you all so much. Thank you for attending. Thank you for the questions. Love talking with you all.
Luke is incredible.